So I just finished watching this report. Not a report, it was a press conference. It's a little bit, I guess it was somewhat informative. So it was, my president comes out, and my vice president, and, a whole bunch of other people, so that way in case Donald starts to stumble over his lines, he's got, some backup. Mike Pence is talking about how millions of people donated surgical masks and how he was thankful for that. And since we have plenty of, surgical masks, by inference, could we assume that ventilators weren't donated? Respirators and ventilators are probably still missing. Donald, he says use the app. They're all talking about go to Walmart and make sure you go to McDonald's and use drive-thrus. But he's talking about using the app. They're using something about sending the surgical mask. They've got the surgical masks, now they're going to ship them directly to the states. Lockdowns were done in New York and California, but Donald says that there's not going to be a lockdown across the country. And then later on he's talking about the legislation, how it's work to not to work. Usually you want a financial package to get America back to work, but right now he says that they're working on a financial package together to get Americans to stay at home and to be lazy and to not to work, not to pull themselves up by their bootstraps. So, yeah. Now, they started to antagonize Donald, the reporters, when it came to him recommending some drug. There's a malaria drug. It's got a weird name. I haven't memorized it. But they were saying, don't you think it's dangerous just by spitting it out there, just by saying it? And he was kind of like, what do we have to lose? You know what I mean? Like, this drug could work. There's no side effects. So, basically, American people, be guinea pigs. Just test the new drugs on yourselves, America. That malaria drug? Yeah, try that for the coronavirus. Who knows? It could work. Maybe it does. They say aspirin and ibuprofen does not work. So do not use aspirin or ibuprofen. Now, the exciting moment, okay, so apparently this reporter and Donald has a history, and he's like, I know Peter, and he's a dishonest, and he's a terrible reporter. So Donald's trying to, make the American people feel at ease. He's got it all under control, have no worries, there's no problem. And they say, the guy who was asking him about is it responsible to use the drug says, what do you say to the millions of Americans who are scared right now? So basically, what's your message to the country? And so the question is, what do you say to the millions of Americans who are scared right now? And Donald's immediate response is, you're a terrible reporter. And then he says, same as CNN and Comcast. Really bad reporting, it's a bunch of sensationalism, and you ought to be ashamed of yourself. And then he got somebody else to ask a question. Eventually, they come back around to it. The reporters were very much, a lot of them were in solidarity and said, do you think it's good for the country to lash out at reporters? And just sitting there asking them kind of, some trolling questions. But yeah, to put our minds at ease, right, what is the message to the American people? Donald, you got a press conference, so you're trying to give us, what's the message to the American people? What is the message? Fuck you, you piece of shit, you fake news piece of shit, fuck you. That's, okay, that's going to put all of our minds at ease. The reporters, our media is a bunch of liars, and you keep on talking to the damn liars. So why, maybe just tweet. Just don't even talk to the reporters anymore. If the media's so bad, talk about not playing with others. If the media's so bad, just why don't you? So eventually, they asked the question. Another reporter asked the same question. What is your, message to the country? What is your message to the American people? And then after an interruption, somebody stepped in real quick so they could answer it, so they could kind of, let Donald gather his thoughts and, get back to his presidential demeanor. He says that right now there's a low incidence of death. America's stronger than before or than ever, and we're going to be stronger afterwards. We're going to, pull together. We're going to be bigger, better, stronger. We learned a lot, who to rely on, who not to rely on. The ultimate problem is death. So that's very low incidence of death so far. We haven't done it. You know, it wasn't our fault. So good job, American people. Great job, American people. It wasn't our fault nor 140 other countries' fault. It was only China's fault. Never ever forget this war that China has started against us. No, he didn't say it. It was a good conversation with Chuck Schumer. So we're going to pull together, get rid of this invisible enemy, and then go back to the economy that we had. So that was ultimately his message to the American people if he didn't let, Peter get under his craw. Now, this universal basic income, it's only going to be temporary. It's only limited. It's only going to be, $1,000 a month, maybe $2,000 to $1,000 checks. But Mitch McConnell has actually, he threw a curveball. He's going to give one check of $1,200 unless you're super duper fucking poor. Then you only get $600, you fucking poor fucks. Only the poorest of the poor get $600, and that's, their kids only get half the amount. So basically the poorest of the poor got no representation in Mitch McConnell's bill. $1,200 is what, so he's only going to send out one check, and so it's more for the first check, but it's actually less overall. And so, yeah, I don't know if Mitch's bill is dead on arrival. Maybe I should have focused more on the Democratic bill to see. They did, 3 coronavirus spending bills right in a row. So one's for the vaccine and one's for the testing and emergency sick leave. So if you go to the hospital, you'll probably be taken care of. $100 billion is for that. $8 billion is for the vaccine. So if you come up with the vaccine, you get yourself a cool billion. Yeah, you got the vaccine? Give you $1 billion. I'll give you a large sum of money. I'll give you a large sum of money. $1 million? Does that sound like? No, it doesn't sound. $1 billion. Oh, okay, there you go. What do you think? No, you're still not going to do it. You're going to report it to the German media. Oh shit. So the average American only has $400 in savings to use for emergency. So the average American is not prepared for the coronavirus pandemic. Nobody has an immunity. It's going to catch maybe 50% of everybody. Nobody has immunity. There's no vaccine. So basically, we're out and about. It's all over the place. It's been, out and about for the past 3 months, and we've been acting like nothing's been going on. So we've substantially spread it to, everywhere and anybody. And so will we defeat this? Most Americans are not prepared. Most Americans are not prepared. And so getting universal basic income, even temporary, $1,000, $1,200, I think $1,200, Mitch's plan sucks. Steve Mnuchin plan, his plan was real good because basically he had a means test. He did say, the millionaires won't get any checks. But by making it universal, just cut the check. Just cut the check. Cut every American, 340 million Americans, how many ever million Americans there are, just cut every single goddamn American a check. Every American gets $1,000. Make it simple, make it universal, and get it passed right now. And do it for 2 months. I mean, that sounds easy, simple, quick, painless. Mitch McConnell's doing means testing for not just the richest people, but make sure the poorest of the poor, make sure they don't live above their means with $1,000 check. I mean, fucking homeless, they're not used to $1,000 goddamn dollars. Just give the homeless $600. Shit, we're trying to save some money here. So, and then the $1 trillion, there's no payroll tax holiday. So don't, expect the payroll tax holiday workers of the world. Somebody's got to pay for the $1 trillion. It's our money to begin with. So we're going to get our money back on April and May, most likely. Most likely. You have Lindsey Graham who's holding it up, but I think you could probably just roll right over him. Mitch McConnell should be able to steamroll right over him. And Mitch's plan sucks. So the Democratic plan might hold up. Really, it comes down to whatever Donald, is thinking at the moment, at the time that the bill goes to his desk. He might get 2 bills, right? And he has to choose between one or the other. It gives him a choice. So ultimately, until the bill's signed, we don't know what the fuck is going on, and they are dragging their goddamn feet. They passed this shit on Monday, and here it is, end of the week. Right? They passed this on Monday, the House did. They gave it to the Senate on Monday, and here it is at the end of the week. We're talking about a goddamn crisis here, and you never waste a good crisis. So all these politicians are, absolutely just, making a field day of this, just going hog wild. It's just an incredible, fantastic moment for them. So most of the $1,000 Trump checks, the Trump checks are direct deposit. Apparently Steve Mnuchin. Apparently Steve Mnuchin has everybody's information in America, so don't worry about America. Steve is just going to put $1,000 directly into your bank account without even you knowing why or how or who it got there. But who cares? He's got your back. Big Brother's got your back. Big Brother Steve Mnuchin has got your back. They're talking about negative interest rates. They're talking about a lot of stuff. Commercial paper. Commercial paper. What the fuck is commercial paper? And then they're talking about we need to print more commercial paper, Steve Mnuchin says. So, okay, for who? Who's getting all this commercial paper? And then he talks about equity stakes. So the government's going to buy a piece of the airlines. If they're going to help these corporations out, they're going to buy a piece of the corporations, right? Of course you'd have equity stakes. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to do, a big socialist program with UBI, massive socialist program by nationalizing these industries. And we're also talking about negative interest rates. So we're so far behind that they're about to do negative interest rates so Americans could go borrow money from the bank and get paid for it. You'll get money by taking money out of the bank. We make money by borrowing from the banks. If that's what negative interest rates, that sounds good to me. Yeah, we start making money by taking the money from the banks, and then they're supposed to pay us back. That sounds, that sounds better. The Senate is working on $1 trillion coronavirus spending bill, right? This is $200 billion, more than Obama's Wall Street bailout. Maybe half, maybe a quarter, $250 billion, supposed to go to direct payments to Americans, $1,000 per person, $500 per child, $3,000 for a family of 4. First in 3 weeks, second in 6 weeks. That's the Mnuchin plan. That's the White House administration's plan. And so you got the Senate and the House and the White House plan, and you just have to smash them all together and see if anything survives. So that's the White House plan. Now, I want to defend UBI for a quick second because UBI is one of the most ambitious social programs out there. Universal basic income, just cut Americans a check. Lindsey Graham says he's kind of principally against cutting a check. He's actually kind of the last libertarian standing, right? So Lindsey Graham is against just cutting checks. He wanted to go ahead and beef up unemployment. He thought that was a good idea to beef up unemployment so that way there's more long-term and it's not so much just cutting a check. But that's, UBI is one of the most ambitious social programs out there. He's probably, thinks that this might get popular. Oh, shit, if we try this once or twice, people might love getting a check directly from the federal government. And so people want to say it gets rid of the other social programs. This is a strong, robust social safety net by itself. The old are going for Biden, say they don't give a shit about themselves. We fought for Social Security, and those fuckers just sit on Social Security and get fat on it, and then vote neoliberal, right-wing conservatives who threaten to cut Social Security over and over and over again. They don't give a shit about the next generation. They don't care about universal health care. They don't care about ending the wars, right? Just let everybody else drown. That's what the people on Social Security, you want Biden, Joe Biden, so now we have no choice, who's the progressive that is going to become president next time? None. We don't have any progressive who's going to become president. The Green Party, Howie Hawkins, no, not unless Bernie takes an independent run and takes it all the way to the end. That's the only way we can get a progressive in there. Joe fucking Biden, Jesus Christ. Mr. Incremental, Mr. I'm not going to change that much. So Donald is still the change candidate. So UBI, Donald is the one proposing UBI. Where the hell is Joe? Nobody even knows who the hell Joe is. He's probably wandering around on the White House lawn with, old crazy Don. So universal basic income, the best reason to support universal basic income is that it gets rid of poverty. It gets rid of poverty. Right now there's poor people on the street, and some of them might have been by their own choices. But I think everybody that doesn't give a shit will always blame them. But I'll grant some of them by their own choices. Others have just had an unlucky hand. Just born poor, stayed poor, never got up, and just some of them are crazy. Some of them have they're methed out, so their bodies and faces are deteriorating. And they're the ones probably, talk about coronavirus, they're probably the main people spreading the coronavirus. I mean, they probably had coronavirus for decades, and they've been, smearing it all over the streets and the sidewalks and the trees and the parks and the deserts and wherever the hell they could, find a home for themselves. So California is doing good with the homeless by, opening up like 300 public abandoned places and saying, okay, this is for the homeless. You can stay here, which is basically what the homeless have been doing anyways, and people have just been turning their head to because they got to do something. So universal basic income actually gives the homeless a chance. It actually gives the poor people a chance. It gets rid of homelessness and poverty. Because if you're getting a universal basic income, how come you didn't spend that money for housing? How come you didn't spend that money to get yourself up out of where you're at? So I have no sympathy for the people. You have a UBI and you still fucked up. Well, maybe, you'll get your next $1,000 check next month. Maybe you can do better with the next check. So for me, UBI, it gets rid of poverty, eliminates poverty, and it's ambitious. One of the few things that, could actually do something like that. Land reform, more socialist than UBI would just be passing out houses and free cars and free ponies and free computer laptops for everybody. Free, not just services, internet, and healthcare and education, but get some real, now I want some assets. Free land, free housing, free computers. That's more socialist. But UBI is right up there. UBI is right up there. And so it's quite incredible that it's the Republicans who are pushing for this UBI thing. Free houses. So it's very ambitious. It's, UBI should keep going on forever. So the limited UBI plan, I love. It's fantastic. I think it's going to pass. The Wall Street Bank of America said, you know what, just keep spending as much money, federal government. There is no ceiling for how much we recommend. We want you to spend, 300 trillion. There is no limit. So Wall Street, the 1%, the ruling class, wants to shove some money into Americans' hands, get them through the storm, let them be able to survive a month or two, and then once they survive a month or two, use that money, pumps it back into the economy. It'll stimulate the fuck out of the economy. There's no way you could deny that giving every person $1,000. Everybody's got disposable income. Everybody's got money to spend. And people that need it, it would be, essential for them. But you can give the rich people a $1,000 check. They can buy a brand new gumball machine or some shit. I don't know what the fuck rich people buy. But, to make it quick, make it easy, every American gets a $1,000 check for 2 months. Cut the damn checks. Tulsi, Yang, yeah, they were Democrats that were for it, but really it's Mitt Romney, Marco Rubio, and Tom Cotton. And Donald and munitions. I don't know. Milton Friedman, Martin Luther King were both in favor of it. Martin Luther King's a democratic socialist. Milton Friedman's your right-wing economist, the Chicago boy, is the one that got Allende overthrown in Chile. Milton Friedman and MLK, the economics that they used in Chile was Milton Friedman's philosophy. So you have right-wing economist Milton Friedman, left-wing radical democratic socialist Martin Luther King Jr. Both of these people believe in universal basic income. Why? You have to ask yourself that question. Why? Why would the far left and the far right agree on universal basic income? Because it's a good fucking idea. Thomas Paine, the author of Common Sense, he believed in universal basic income. It's common sense. Universal basic income is common sense. Gets rid of poverty. We're a wealthy country. It's ridiculous that people have to, fight and claw and scrape just for a little piece of cheese, just a corner, just for your little, chunk of bread. Oh, I got my piece of cheese, got my chunk of bread, I got my piece of the pie. I guess I'm, I'm barely above, the Joneses, so I'm doing good. So Bernie's calling for $2,000 checks. That's, I think, is good. And they're going to try to take it away immediately, but maybe we could keep it. Maybe we could keep it, or maybe we could, get a taste. Just like crack, right? You get a taste of that UBI. People be clamoring for it, and it'll be undeniable in a year. Last point I want to make, Mitch McConnell, his plan sucks, but he offered $1,200. Yang said just $1,000 for everybody. So Mitch McConnell's UBI plan is to the left of Andrew Yang. Andrew Yang's not even a goddamn Democrat. He's a fucking right-wing neoliberal fucking Republican. So Mitch McConnell's plan is to the left of Andrew Yang's. Mitch McConnell's plan is passing out $1,200. So old Castro Mitch, right? Talk about Mr. Socialism, right? Mr. Socialist during the pandemic going to gag and vote for it. Bullshit. You're doing it because, you know, extraordinary, whatever. You're going to, you know, people are going to say, what the fuck did you do during this time? And you're going to have to say that you did something. And so that he's just looking at the goddamn politics to the thing. And apparently, you know, in a crisis, what's the solution, according to Mitch McConnell? Socialism. Big government, lots of spending, more taxes, tax and spend. Don't pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Fucking Mitch is a socialist, you know. Donald is a socialist in chief. Interesting times we live in. So, yeah, March 20th, 2020, today's Friday. That's, you know, the press conference just happened today, March 20th. So, 3/20/2020, Friday, 11:30 a.m. Peace.